in yours. Life is, in many respects, about abandoning oneself and allowing yourself to create new. Very similar to how a tree sheds its leaves and grows new ones. I don't pretend to have answers around how to do this effectively. What I can tell you is when we recruit talent into our organization, or we are helping somebody go from one position to another, and they're trying to grow, I can share with you in our laboratory, our business, that it's one of the hardest things for people to understand. Just this simple concept that you have to let go to grow. And that fear and that anxiety, and when it gets down right into your gut, and you don't know what that next step is, those are the times that you grow the most. And we talk openly about this. And I think it's really important we all do. Nothing is constant. Actually, the only constant thing in the world is that nothing is permanent. This is Bob and me. Bob is one of the most amazing people I have been influenced in my life by. Bob is the chairman of our organization. He's been a mentor, he's been a friend, he's been a father. He has been so many things to me in my life. And Bob and I went through this really crazy process. We actually went through a buyout. We went through a full-blown succession plan. Craziest thing in business that I've ever gone through. We had to structure a succession plan in our business that would allow me to abandon being an individual contributor, abandon what I knew how to do best, and be completely selfless and lead an organization. And Bob set the bar high. And he was patient. And he was a great example of how a leader can show you how it is to be selfless. Even through something as sophisticated as a buyout, where there's money and there's livelihood and there's all these other things involved. People's feelings, I mean, it's crazy. I found during the process that becoming centered, I'm no monk. Trust me when I tell you, I am the furthest thing from a monk. But being centered was really important. And we talk about this too in our company. We talk about people not getting so excited when it's really good, and not getting depressed when it's not so good. Stay centered. One of the hardest lessons I learned through my process of taking over as owner and CEO of Innovative is I had to watch 12 of my closest peers, some of which were friends, walk. We set a vision. We were very clear about our mission. We had strategic objectives to accomplish. And 12 people abandoned the organization over a 4-month window. Every week, it was every Friday for some reason. Right after all staff, we do a weekly all staff, all the employees, we all get together, we talk for 15 minutes. After every all staff, for every week, somebody was coming into my office. Yep, so-and-so's leaving. Yep, they're leaving. You talk about questioning yourself. You talk about really, really being challenged. This hit me. This hit me hard. I realized something. I realized this lesson that we're actually not built for what it is that we live in today. This world that we live in today is crazy. So, as you can imagine, I see a therapist. I think everybody should see a therapist. It's like the greatest drug. Honestly, never been to therapy. It's kind of crazy. Like, you get to go talk to somebody about you and your shit. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's just, you dig it up. And so I go in, I talk to Mark one day, and I'm like, listen, Mark, let's cut the family shit. Like, let's just get right down to it. Like, I got to get through this. And And we talked about the fact that in one day, in 2018, today, you can experience more pain than what our ancestors would feel in a lifetime. And I was like, that's some deep shit. That is really like, wow, let's talk more about that. My 1 hour session with him ended up being an hour and 45 minutes. He's the coolest guy. He's a therapist that other therapists go to see. His bullshit meter is like super high. And of course, my primary care physician is like, you gotta go see Mark. You're not gonna go see anybody else. So I was like, okay, cool. So we get down into this, and we start talking about how crazy it is we don't kill each other. I mean, we've all been there. Like, it's incredible we're all in this room and we don't just kill each other. I watched a TED Talk right around the same time. It was this researcher, I want to say he was out of England. Doesn't matter. He did a TED Talk on how violence has significantly decreased over the past 10,000 years. Like, if you charted how many people would be killed, like, males had a 65% chance in their first 4 years of adulthood of dying by another human being. Like, that's what it used to be. And today, it's relatively peaceful. Yet, because of social media, because of technology, things that really get into our world, we can experience pain more in a day than you could have in your entire life. Years ago, Paleolithic era, we were built and we were surrounded by survival, fight or flight. Evolutionarily, we are programmed for a very different time. We used to live in very small communities. We used to only see or meet people that were very like ourselves. And we had two objectives every day: eat and reproduce. That's it. Think about what we live in today. We do not live in small communities. We are connected globally. We meet people that are nothing like us. I'm going to challenge that in a moment. In eating and reproducing today, if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. It's just very different. So this was interesting to me. And so I started doing more research. And I started understanding a little bit more about biology. Because biology was not something that I was really strong in school. It was something I stayed away from. But I was really infatuated with the human brain. And so you can get a lot of information from a lot of different places. I started reading. I started reading books around how the brain evolved. And the bottom line is this. There's really two systems we all have within ourselves. We have this system one that's very automatic. And we have system two, which thinks, rationalizes, and processes. We are the only species that can predict an outcome. We're the only species that can do that. Why is that important? Well, we have brains that are not built for a world that we live in today, that sometimes go on autopilot, and then other times we get to choose when we take over, and depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, you think differently, hemispherically. What's incredible is that we are all nearly the same within 0.1% of our DNA. Take a break. This is petty, but it's true. So, I'm not in Mark's office anymore. I'm like, how do we make sense of this? I've got a company with people leaving. I've got all this research. I've got my friends next to me. I'm mourning the death of my brother. Like, what is going on right now? I asked the question. Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be? That's a really powerful question. Who do I want to be? Here's the deal. You know no one. 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 No one who has been successful without putting an obnoxious amount of work into what they want to do. So I started thinking about that. Hard work. It's not going to get the job done, but it's really important. And a mentor of mine told me something. She said, you know what, Justin? Life, it's not about finding yourself. You know what it's about? It's about creating yourself. I was like, again, with these memes. I'm like, come on, seriously? Trust me. Think about it. Think about what you spend an obnoxious time amount. Think about what the people you work with spend an obnoxious amount of time about. See where it gets you. See what you're creating. That's deep. So I started to think about what success meant. What did success mean for our organization? I had a vision to change IT forever. We're in the information technology space. Our business, our people, we're going hard. Anybody who's ever worked with our organization feels it. It's a very different experience. So I knew that was there. But wait, what about, like me? What did success mean? And since I was a kid, I had always chased a version of me that was 10 years ahead. It was always 10 years ahead. I remember when I was in school, I was like, yeah, whatever. Wait till I'm out of school. And I would always come up with these visions of myself that were 10 years ahead. So I was obviously doing this at that time. And I love chasing the future me because he is so much better than me. He's so much wiser. I love it. And I can never get to him. Because in 10 years, I'm chasing me again in 10 years. But I'm cool with that vicious cycle. And it motivates me to think differently. And it was interesting because when I was working with some of our folks in the organization, we were going down these paths of self-discovery. We were having deep conversations about where they wanted to be in their career. And I said to everybody, you know what? Fuck job descriptions. What? HR was like, what? What do you mean you're not going to have job descriptions? I said, forget them! You know what we're going to do? Everybody's going to write their own job description. Okay. Good luck, Justin. I was like, seriously, I will take the first stab. And then Bob and I started writing our own job descriptions. Like, you know what nobody wants to do? We're just going to write our own job descriptions. And then we're going to take that process and we're going to show everybody how we write our own path forward. And when you do this process, it is a deep process of self-discovery. And it's a process that we have now, over the past 2.5 years, we have iterated on. And I have an amazing team who has adopted this principle. One of our team members, Jamie Eisenhower, actually went to Zappos. If you're familiar with Zappos, they sell shoes and other things. They're actually an Amazon company. They have this crazy culture. It's amazing. They are regarded as one of the most amazing cultures in the world for business. And Jamie was sharing with them just 2 months ago how we do this process of writing our own job description. They were floored. They loved it. They wanted to take it in. I was like, share everything with them. I don't care. We've skinned our knees on it. Give it to them. If Zappos takes it and they do something with it, that's great. But we know that this helps us move in the right direction. What we also found out was that people who come into our organization, they don't want to be told what to do. Regardless of generation, this was even crazier to me. I had a CFO came out of retirement, works for us. Last guy that wanted to be told what to do. I was like, all right, Bill, write your own job description. Go. And then I'd bring a co-op in. They'd be like, what? Let's foster you along. We'll help you write your own job description. You have a job description that you came into the organization with, but let's make it about you. Amazing quote. You walk away from this room with one quote today. Don't pay attention to any of the other ones. This is the one by a guy named Cooley. He said, today I am not what I think I am. And I'm not what you think I am. I actually am what I think you think I am. Today, I am not what I think I am. I'm not. I'm not also what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. It's an echo chamber. We live in these boxes where we're trying to stack up to something. This is important. And people need to have self-realization about this. The cleanest example I can give you around this, when it hit me, was for many years. I was aspiring to be something I wasn't. This is my youngest years. I was in school. I'll share a little story with you. I'm in 8th grade. I went to McQuaid. It's my first year at McQuaid. My mom loves telling everybody this story because it just tears me down, which is good. I get home from school. I'm on the stairs, or the landing of the stairs, to go upstairs to my room to start my homework. And I'm bawling, crying. I'm in 8th grade. I got kicked out of my last school for fighting. Like, this is just, I'm broken. My mom's like, what is wrong? In her way. I was like, I just can't do this. It's 2 weeks at McQuaid. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm going to fail. I'm never going to get through any of this. It's like, stop. You're trying to be something for someone else. All you need to do is try your best. That's it. I don't care if you get C's, D's. Try your best. Don't live in the echo chamber. Don't worry about what McQuaid wants you to do. Don't worry about what Mom and Dad want you to do. Do your best. I can't tell you how many times I think of that day. My mom, she grabbed me that day. She did what good moms do. She put me in that right place to think. It doesn't mean I don't still do this all the time. I'll give you another example. We have all staff every Friday. I just told you that. So I get up there for 15 minutes. I talk about what's going on in the organization. They're really great. Every Thursday night, I get this anxiety. What am I going to talk about? So I go through my list of everything that went on during the week. And by the time I go to bed, I'm at peace. But I have this anxiety because I'm constantly thinking, what are they going to think I should talk about? It's crazy. I think this haunts us. Together is better. It's a good book. Simon Sinek, famous author, came out with this book called Together is Better. It's amazing because he talks about people purely just working together to get things done. I can tell you how different the company that we have today is than what it was when I came in. In 2003, when I came into Innovative, I was a co-op at RET, and everything was siloed. We were 20 people. Today we're about 75. And the 20 people all ran. It was as if they ran their own business. Nobody worked together. It was like a pride thing. A bunch of heroes running around. Couldn't grow. It's not scalable. When I think about what we're doing as a business now, we're also challenging some traditional thinking around how we operate as a business. I proudly shared with the organization about 2 years ago that our vision is around delivering amazing client experiences. That one day we will even sell to our competitors. What? We're going to give part of what we do to our competitors? I'm like, yes! Yes! That's what we're going to do! Together is better. I'm not afraid of a competitor. I actually don't look at our competitors as competitors. They're just people. And so Bob and I ended up calling all our competitors. We ended up getting through to about 70% of them. And they wanted to meet. And they wanted to talk. And they were cool. Nobody had ever done that. And then we took it a step further. And Zena helped us put together this amazing technology conference last year. Some of you attended. We had our competitors there. I was like, oh, shit, this is really working. together is better. Calvin and Hobbes. I don't know if y'all remember Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin and Hobbes. Woo! Many days I would read these little Calvin and Hobbes books. And there was something very real about the experiences of Calvin and his imaginary friend Hobbes. One of the things that always struck me was he always had somebody to help him. So if you read, or if you haven't read, it doesn't really matter, Calvin always had somebody there to help. When my brother Jordan passed, there was something I took away from it that really struck me. My brother, upon his death, didn't ask for help. And I will forever hold on to the principle of asking for help. Not in a life or death way necessarily, but we can't do nearly as much for ourselves or other people if we don't just ask for help. And I think it takes an enormous amount of self-awareness and self-reflection to be able to come to the table and ask for help. Put your pride aside. Around that time, early, mid-2016, I was back at Mark. We were talking, typical therapy stuff. He says, you know what, Justin? You know what you're doing in your company? I'm like, what's that, Mark? He goes, you're planting trees that you, one day, will probably never sit under. I said, that's really interesting. What do you mean by that? He's like, well, planting a shade tree that you know you'll never sit under is purely selfless. And I was like, and? And he said, well, that's exactly why people have kids. He's like, kids are the most important thing to people. And parents are completely selfless. And they're constantly creating succession. They're passing on what they will never be able to see the benefit of. And I said, why isn't every company like that? Not that your employees are your kids, but that your employees are like your kids. You take care of them. You give them the things that allowed you to be successful, and you help them grow so that they can move you out of the way and move forward and create change and do amazing things in the world. Planting shade trees that you will never sit under. This whole notion around detachment. It's another big thing I had to go through. I don't know why. I think it was partial. Well, I think part of it was generational. Like, being young and growing up and working for things and capitalism and all this stuff I will not bore you with, I think created this expectation that you needed to work to gain things. And I shared with you a little bit of my lineage. Hard-working people that wanted to capture things. And I hit this point in early 2017 where I found true detachment. Now, detachment is thought of as owning nothing. But the realist, there's a book called the Bhagavad Gita, it actually says that detachment is that nothing owns you. And so I started going deep into this thinking around all this nice stuff I have. Do I need it? Do I care? What if I didn't have it? Does it matter? And when you hit a point in your life where life brings you to dark, as many of you, I am sure, have had in your own stories, you realize that detachment is something we all can align to. At work, I think we get way too caught up in being attached to stupid shit, like numbers, spreadsheets, promotions. I just like make my skin crawl. Like, promotion? Like, what are we doing? Promotion? Like, it's so artificial. We're all people. I'm the owner and CEO of my company. Doesn't matter if next year I'm not, because if I'm not, people will still look at me as me. I'm playing a role, as the co-op is, or as the engineer is, or as the architect in our organization is, or as our benefits manager is. We play roles, and we can't get attached. There is a very long-standing philosophy in our organization of not having titles. We have titles on business cards for one reason. So that the rest of the artificial world can know where we stand. It holds no, it has no value in our organization, your title. Zero. I believe, quite frankly, in something called holacracy. It's a flat organization. Anybody can say anything to anyone, as long as you treat somebody with respect, and as long as you're moving forward. A bit more around this working together thing. Failure. I don't think people can really work well together, and this is something that I learned in a big way last year. Last year, first quarter, we were hemorrhaging money. Worst quarter of our history. Talk about, again, self-actualization, self-realization. What did I do? Did I really do the right thing? I was shook to the core. Because as a business, we were not doing well. And the last thing I was going to do was let people go. Even though we weren't productive and we weren't busy. We lost some focus because of the fact that we had to bring on board 12 new people. That took time. That took energy. So we came together. We came together as an organization. We talked openly about what we were going through. And we forced people to really start writing down goals for themselves. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Micro goals, macro goals. And it was funny because there were people drowning. Drowning in their work, personally, professionally. But people were asking for help. This was different. That didn't happen before. And people were being just straight up. They were being real about what was going on in their role in the company. And they were getting loud. It's another phrase we use. So, around April of last year, we paused. And we started saying to ourselves, what do we want to become? I mean, we know where we're going as a business, but what do we want to become? What's our reason for being? It's not just to do work. People started coming up with all kinds of things. Why they were there, what they wanted to accomplish, why they thought they were ready to move to the next level, whatever the next level meant. And I got very, very close to a few individuals because they were having some significant self-conflict. And I came across this notion that we had a group of people, it was probably at the time, it was probably about half of the company, that really believed that the conditions of their environment led to their unhappiness. Which is not true. It's not true. Viktor Frankl wrote a book. Amazing human being. One of the most amazing books I've ever read in my life. This guy wrote a book about being in a concentration camp in Auschwitz. Seeing horror. I mean, when you're reading, I cried reading the book. He saw things no human being should see. He came out of it a stronger man. Said that it is the decisions we make in life, not the conditions, that determine who you are. And it's a book around, in my opinion, self-awareness. Understanding we all come from different things. And the reality is, in business, and I tell people this all the time, no one cares. Keep complaining. No one cares. No one cares. Business is cutthroat. Customer will buy or they will not buy. It's just the reality. You cannot get into an environment, in my opinion, where it's more stark. Customer decides to move forward, or they tell you, man, we're not interested. Sometimes they don't even tell you. They just walk away. You cannot succumb to the condition. You've got to know what your decisions are. I used to have a horse growing up. I was in 4-H club. Don't ask me why, but I was. And I was always curious. So I got bucked off this horse probably 20 times. I was 10 years old. So my little ass would go flying in the air, fall off the horse, get back up. One time I broke my ankle. It was bad. But I never understood what was up with my horse, Maddie. Like, what? Why was I getting bucked off all the time? And it was years later where I had this epiphany. Some horses aren't meant to be ridden. Now, she very well may have later in her life. I don't know. But at that point in time, she was a yearling. She had no business to be ridden. But my mom would throw me back on her, taught me lots of life lessons. But it's important. Some people get into roles that they're just not meant for. And we see this all the time. People get really attracted to seeking out a new experience or a new role or a new position, but for the wrong reasons, and they're just not the right fit. The one thing, though, that I do believe is that you want to seek as many experiences as possible. I told you, I'm not a monk. I smoke cigars. Love cigars. They're not good for you. But a thing that cigar smokers know is that you will never know what you like unless you try everything. Ask anybody you know who smokes cigars. They'll tell you they've smoked lots of different things until you find what you like. I hear it's very similar to how folks who like wine perceive wine. In business, it's no different. And I did something very unpopular several years ago in our organization. I asked everybody, every employee, to go interview for a new job. What is wrong? He needs to go back to therapy. Mark, help him out. I asked everybody to go look for a new job because I wanted people to know if the grass was greener from their lens, not mine. I knew our company was amazing. I knew we were doing incredible things, but they didn't. And so I challenged them to go find new experiences elsewhere. And interview once, at least. About half did. The other half, either too scared or they were straight up just not interested. They knew the grass was greener where they were. And it was a good reflection point. Because I think when you look for a new job, and anybody in this room who's gone through that process, you recognize very quickly that the goal you set out for yourself, or your position, like what's that title I want to have one day, whatever it is. What's that part of the organization I want to be seated at? I want to be on the board. I want to be a C-level, whatever it is. What I love about this conversation, when we have this with folks, is it is evident almost immediately when people are obsessed with the goal, not the process. The process is what it's about. The process of getting there. If you're not obsessed with that process, it's not right for you. And we talk about this very openly in our organization. We talk about this very openly in our family. I talk about this with my friends. The process, getting like down in the grit. You gotta love that. If you don't, it's not right for you. It's just not right for you. A little bit about finding self. I think this is a good transition. When we talk about finding yourself, when I think about it, there's two things to keep in mind. There's purpose and there's passion. Your purpose is for you. Your passion is when you take your purpose and you apply it to somebody else. That's the difference. Too often these get used interchangeably, and I don't think people understand that there is a clear line between passion and purpose. There is an intersection. I'll tell you a quick story. Around the same time that we were going through all these transitions and friends were leaving of mine, etc., one of our senior folks had a real moment of clarity. He was passionate about helping others, but he had never taken the time to understand his purpose. I would tell you, as a friend, as a mentor, as a leader, as a thinking partner, whatever it is the hardest thing to stick by somebody's side when they go through this. Talking to somebody who has been their entire life focused externally on what they can do for others as a purpose, and never focusing on their own passion, is backwards roll, completely backwards wiring. And to watch somebody unravel that for themselves is hard to watch. But I think it is a very real thing that we all need to recognize in our organizations, in our friendships, in our families. I told you there's a few slides with words on them. This one is awesome. It's the only Venn diagram I've ever liked. It says a lot of things, but when people are looking for what their passion is, or how they got to where their purpose lives, they go about it one of two ways. People either start with what they're really good at, and that they like to do a lot of, and they start doing it for people. And if they can make money doing it, and they figure out that the world needs it, they have found gold. They have found their calling. And there's very few people I have met that get this right early in life. I've met a lot of wise people, many of them in our organization, many of them older, much older than me, that have figured this out. Other people, they will start helping other people. And they will see that there is a need in the world, and they'll see that they can get paid for it. And they don't question whether or not they like it, or whether or not they're any good at it. And I think that that's really tough, because sometimes you have to see people break away. In the nonprofit community, we do about a third of our work as an organization in the nonprofit community. I love the work we do for nonprofits, largely because you meet very different people than you meet in the for-profit world. Different in the sense that they are there for a purpose. Talk to somebody who works for a nonprofit. They're not there for the money. They're not. A lot of times they don't even think about if what they're doing they're good at. They're just like, so-and-so needs me. Gotta be there. These people count on me. And it's amazing to talk to folks in nonprofits. They battle what for-profits don't have to